Forget the beaches, forget the theme parks, forget the retirees in colorful caps and the cocktails with little umbrellas. Florida has a problem, one that no weather report announces and no tourism agency mentions in its brochures. Beneath the surface of the palm tree paradise, the largest biological disaster in modern American history is unfolding. A silent army of foreign organisms has invaded the ecosystem, and they are not merely surviving, they are winning. There is a state in America where you can be attacked by a 20-foot snake while taking your dog for a walk, where toxic toads kill dogs in 15 minutes, where snails, yes, snails, have forced authorities to quarantine entire neighborhoods because of a parasite capable of causing meningitis in humans, where strikingly beautiful venomous fish have nearly wiped out all life from coral reefs that took centuries to build. It is documented reality, verified by biologists, university researchers, and federal agencies. It is ecology in real-time collapse. Let's step into the most dangerous biological zone in America, and let's see exactly how it got here. If you had to pick a single symbol of this invasion, one animal that captures the entire catastrophe, it would be the Burmese python. We are talking about one of the largest snakes on the planet. A full-grown adult can exceed 20 feet in length and weigh over 200 pounds. Native to the tropical forests of Southeast Asia, it is a world-class predator in its natural habitat. Perfect camouflage, extreme patience, and a brutally efficient killing method. It wraps around its prey and shuts down the circulatory system. So how did it end up in Florida? There are two explanations that overlap, and both are equally staggering. The first, Miami was, for decades, the most active entry point for the exotic animal trade in the United States. Burmese pythons were sold in pet shops, adorable when small, completely unmanageable when grown. Desperate owners simply released them into the Everglades for years, for decades. The second, Hurricane Andrew, 1992. A Category 5 storm that hit southern Florida with devastating force. Among the things destroyed, a reptile breeding facility near the Everglades. The pythons escaped into the swamps, and there they found exactly what they needed: heat, humidity, abundant prey, and, critically, no natural predators. By the year 2000, authorities officially confirmed that Burmese pythons had formed a self-sustaining reproductive population in the Everglades. Since then, estimates of their numbers have ranged between 30,000 and 300,000 individuals. No one knows the exact figure. The reason is simple and terrifying. Only 1% of Burmese pythons are ever seen or captured. The rest are invisible. They are masters of concealment, ambush hunters capable of remaining motionless for days. But their effects are anything but invisible. By 2012, studies published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences had documented an unprecedented collapse in mammal populations inside Everglades National Park. Nighttime road surveys conducted over nearly 35,000 miles across 9 years produced numbers that initially made researchers think there had been a data error. Raccoon populations had declined by 99.3%, not by half, not by 80%, by 99.3%. Opossum down 98.9%, bobcat down 87.5%. Marsh rabbits had vanished entirely from the core invasion zones. Foxes locally extirpated. White-tailed deer down 94%. Researchers experimentally reintroduced rabbit populations into areas of Everglades National Park to test the hypothesis directly. The result? Burmese pythons caused 77% of all mortalities, and the rabbit population was completely eliminated in less than 11 months. 11 months. An entire population gone. Biologist Mike Kirkland, who leads the Python Elimination Program in South Florida, has called it publicly what it is: an ecological collapse. And as the base of the food web crumbled, the effects cascaded upward. The Florida panther, already a critically endangered species, was left without prey. Birds, reptiles, amphibians, all under increasing pressure. Researchers identified remains of at least 25 bird species from 9 avian orders in the stomachs of 85 captured pythons. And if that is not enough to grasp the scale of the problem, here is the detail that shocked international media. Captured pythons have been found with entire white-tailed deer inside them, with 5-foot alligators in their stomachs, not dismembered, whole. The state of Florida has fought back. They organized competitions, the Python Challenge, where participants form teams, enter the swamps, and hunt pythons for prize money. The 2023 competition involved over 1,000 participants and removed 209 snakes, an impressive number at first glance, completely insignificant against any reasonable population estimate. Researchers have tried another approach, using captured pythons fitted with radio transmitters to guide hunters toward adult females, the only individuals that truly matter for population control, because a single female can lay up to 100 eggs per year. These tracked animals are called scout snakes. The cold reality: eradication is impossible. Burmese pythons have embedded themselves in the Everglades with a permanence measured in generations. They are not leaving. Current strategy is management, not elimination, and even that, experts say, is a battle Florida is losing. The pythons are the most spectacular problem, but Florida has an entire gallery of invaders, and some of them live much closer to people's homes. Take the green iguana. They are not as large and they do not hunt mammals, but they are an urban problem of impressive scale, and for a reason that residents of Miami and Fort Lauderdale know very well. They are absolutely everywhere. The green iguana, native to Central and South America, arrived in Florida through the exotic animal trade. Unlike pythons, iguanas have no problem with human presence. On the contrary, they thrive in urban and suburban environments. They feed on vegetation, destroy gardens, dig burrows that destabilize building foundations, canal banks, and sidewalks. Their droppings carry salmonella. And because adults can exceed 5 feet in length, they have started causing power outages by climbing onto electrical transformers. But the most bizarre phenomenon involving Florida iguanas happens on cold winter days. Iguanas are cold-blooded. When temperatures drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, rare but not impossible in South Florida, their nervous systems simply shut down. Their muscles freeze. The animal becomes rigid, unable to move or grip, and it falls out of the tree, literally. Iguanas weighing 4, 6, 8 pounds drop from palm trees onto parked cars, sidewalks, and patios. They are alive, but appear dead, and because residents unfamiliar with the phenomenon bring them inside, thinking they have found a dead lizard, the body temperature recovers, the animal wakes up, and it becomes dangerous. Local authorities have issued official warnings. If you find an iguana that has fallen on the street, do not touch it. It may wake up in your hands. Now, from the comedic dragon, we move to the serious one. The Argentine black and white tegu, Salvatore mariani, is a quiet monster. It can reach 4 feet in length, patterned in black and white, with a slow, deliberate movement. No venom, no constriction. Its weapon is far simpler and far more devastating. It eats eggs. Any eggs. American alligator eggs buried into marsh nests, eggs of federally protected sea turtles, eggs of American crocodiles, one of the rarest reptile species on the planet, with only a few hundred individuals in Florida. Gopher tortoise hatchlings, a threatened species. Camera traps have photographed tegus directly on American crocodile nests. Researchers at the University of Florida analyzed the stomach contents of 124 tegus captured in Miami-Dade County. 39% contained vertebrate remains including frogs, snakes, rodents, and gopher tortoise hatchlings. In Venezuela, their country of origin, tegus have a folk name, El Lobo Polero, the wolf that steals chicks, They raid chicken coops with a consistency that has frustrated farmers for centuries. In Florida, the same behavior is applied to species that the state spends millions of dollars protecting. And unlike many other invasive reptiles, the tegu has a particular advantage: cold tolerance. It can burrow underground during winter, reduce its metabolism to a minimum, and emerge in spring without difficulty. That means the climate limits that might theoretically stop its northward expansion are far broader than for other tropical species. Tegus have already been confirmed in 35 Florida counties and 4 counties in Georgia. Up to this point, we have been talking about land animals, but Florida's coastline, and by extension, the entire coral reef system of the western Atlantic, has its own problems, far less visible, far harder to fight: the lionfish. Pteroi volitans and Pteroi miles, two closely related species from the Indo-Pacific and the Red Sea, are visually among the most beautiful marine creatures: bold red and white stripes, fins that unfurl like silk folds, venomous dorsal spines. There is a reason they were popular in ornamental aquariums. There is also a reason they are now cataloged as one of the most destructive invasive species in the Western Hemisphere. The first documented individuals in the Atlantic appeared in 1985 off the coast of Florida. They are believed to have come from private aquariums released into the ocean. Hurricane Andrew in 1992 may have accelerated early dispersal, destroying a coastal aquarium near Miami in the process. By 2000, populations had exploded exponentially. By 2009, lionfish were present along the entire American Atlantic coast, throughout the Caribbean, and across the Gulf of Mexico. Today they have spread across an area of over 4.5 million square miles of ocean. Why are they so difficult to control? The reasons are multiple and mutually reinforcing. Adult lionfish have no natural predators in the western Atlantic. No shark, no grouper, no eel has adapted quickly enough to recognize them as prey. Native fish do not identify them as predators and do not flee. Their reproductive output is industrial. A mature female deposits eggs every 3 to 4 days, year-round, with no resting season. Annual total, over 2 million eggs per female. The eggs are released in gelatinous floating masses that are dispersed by ocean currents. The impact on reefs is rapid and severe. Studies conducted in the Bahamas showed that in areas where lionfish had established themselves, native reef fish recruitment dropped by nearly 80% within 5 weeks of the invaders' arrival. A single lionfish can consume prey equivalent to 5.5% of its own body weight per day. It eats everything it can fit in its mouth: shrimp, ornamental fish, juveniles of commercially important species like grouper and snapper. Its hunting strategy is remarkable. The lionfish approaches prey slowly and produces a jet of water directed toward it, disorienting the target and causing it to spin toward the attacker, facilitating engulfment. The dorsal spines, venomous. A sting causes intense pain, swelling, and in rare cases, temporary paralysis, not lethal to humans, but deterrent enough for any potential natural predator. People have found exactly one truly functional solution: eat it. Lionfish flesh is actually delicious. White, firm, mild tasting. The movement to incorporate it into local gastronomy has gained real momentum in Florida, the Caribbean, and Mexico. Trained divers hunt them with spear guns. Restaurants in Key West and Miami serve it. Supermarkets in the region have added it to their shelves. Some researchers argue that the only realistic long-term management strategy is transforming lionfish from an ecological problem into a commercial resource. But even with all this effort, eradication is considered impossible. The depths at which adults live, some exceeding 300 feet, are beyond the reach of divers, and while we discuss this, they continue reproducing every 3 days across the world's oceans. Now staying on land, but shifting attention to the everyday dangers facing pet owners in Florida. The cane toad, Rhinella marina, also called the bufo toad. Introduced into Florida in the 1930s and 1940s to control insects in sugarcane plantations. Mission failed. What did not fail? Its ability to kill dogs. The cane toad is large. Adults reach 6 to 9 inches. It has prominent parotoid glands located immediately behind the eyes that secrete a white, milky toxin called bufotoxin. This contains a complex mixture of biologically active compounds, including substances with effects similar to digitalis, a cardiac toxin, along with adrenaline, serotonin, and tryptamine-like compounds with hallucinogenic properties. It can expel the toxin at distances of up to 6 feet. If a dog licks or bites a cane toad, the toxin is absorbed immediately through the mouth's mucous membranes. The effects are rapid: excessive salivation, disorientation, bright red gums, convulsions, cardiac arrhythmia. Without emergency veterinary treatment, a dog can die within 15 minutes. Veterinary clinics across Florida report hundreds of bufotoxin poisoning cases every year, concentrated in the warm, rainy months when the toads are active. They gather at artificial lights and water sources. They come out to hunt exactly when pet owners take their dogs out, at dusk and after evening thunderstorms. There is a level of absurdity to this invasion that no tourism brochure could have anticipated. We have reached it. The giant African land snail, Lissacatina fulica. It can reach 8 inches in length and weigh nearly a pound. Its reproductive capacity is remarkable. A single individual deposits up to 2,500 eggs per year. It has no natural predators in Florida. But what makes it truly unique is not its size. It is its diet. It eats over 500 species of plants. That would already be alarming enough. But it goes further. It eats stucco. It eats paint. It eats the plaster off the walls of people's houses. Why? Calcium. Its massive shell requires calcium to grow, and tropical soil does not always provide enough. So the snail literally consumes the building materials of people's homes, seeking the calcium carbonate in cement and plaster. There are documented cases of their hard, sharp shells puncturing the tires of vehicles parked on sidewalks. Florida has confronted this species 3 times. First detection, 1969. Eradication achieved in 1975 after a costly campaign. Second outbreak, 2011 in Miami-Dade County. Full eradication completed only in 2021 after 10 years and $1 million in expenditure. Third time, 2022 and 2023, when colonies appeared simultaneously in Pasco County, Broward County, and Lee County. Authorities declared quarantines across multiple neighborhoods. A quarantine for a snail invasion means it is illegal to transport soil, compost, or garden waste outside the affected zone without state approval. Affected properties receive molluscicide treatments. This is not a joke. It is a federally regulated agricultural and public health emergency. A public health emergency because the giant African land snail is a potential vector for a parasite called Angiostrongylus cantonensis, rat lungworm. This parasite can cause a rare form of eosinophilic meningitis in humans, inflammation of the membranes surrounding the brain and spinal cord. Contamination occurs through contact with snail mucus or through consuming unwashed vegetables from affected areas. It is not a mass threat at the population level, but its existence raises the urgency considerably. American health authorities recommend latex gloves for any contact with these animals. And now, because Florida apparently cannot stop surprising, there is one final element in this gallery of invaders that deserves mention: the monkeys. This is not a mistake. Florida has wild monkeys. Macaca mulatta, the rhesus macaque, lives in the forests surrounding Silver Spring State Park in Central Florida. Their origin: a riverboat tour operator in the 1930s who brought a small group of monkeys to the area to create an exotic atmosphere for tourists. He did not account for the fact that the rhesus macaque is an excellent swimmer and that the island where he released them was not actually isolated. Today, population estimates range from several hundred to several thousand individuals. They are listed by state authorities as unprotected, non-native wildlife. But there is a major complication. A significant percentage of Silver Spring's rhesus macaque population carries herpes virus B, also known as MKHV1. In macaques, the virus causes mild symptoms similar to human cold sores. In humans, transmission, which can occur through a bite, scratch, or contact with an infected animal's secretions, can cause fatal encephalomyelitis. The mortality rate in untreated cases is approximately 70%. Florida's state authority officially recommends do not feed, do not touch, and do not approach the monkeys at Silver Springs. A formal wildlife warning for a wild primate species in the middle of an American state in 2024. This is Florida. If you have been listening to all of this and asking why we did not stop it when we could, the answer is that in large part, the optimal window has already closed. And understanding why requires looking at several structural factors. The first, climate. South Florida is one of the smallest zones in North America, with a genuinely subtropical to tropical climate. Average annual temperature, humidity, rainfall, the absence of hard freezes, all of these faithfully recreate the conditions of the Amazon, the forests of Southeast Asia, sub-Saharan Africa. Any organism adapted to such a climate will find the Everglades or the urban zones of Miami a comfortable habitat. The natural climate barrier that the rest of America offers, freezing winters, does not exist in South Florida. The second, Miami as the entry point. For decades, Miami was the most active import hub for the exotic animal trade in the United States. Hundreds of thousands of animals transited through airports and ports annually, legally or illegally. Regulations have gradually tightened, but the damage was already done. Dozens of species released or escaped by overwhelmed owners. The third, the speed of invasion versus the speed of response. Researchers at the University of Florida and the U.S. Geological Survey have publicly acknowledged that, in the case of most invasive species in Florida, adequate monitoring programs simply do not exist. It's like fighting in the dark, said Professor Frank Mazzotti of UF, a specialist in invasive reptiles. By the time populations are large enough to be systematically detected, they are already beyond eradication. The pythons are proof. The tegus, already confirmed in Georgia, are further proof. The fourth, climate change. The scenario that most concerns biologists is not what is happening in Florida right now. It is what will happen in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and beyond, as winters become milder. The Burmese python has already demonstrated partial adaptation to cooler temperatures. Climate models suggest that the potential habitat of many of Florida's invasive species will expand northward over the coming decades. Florida is not just an affected ecosystem, it may be a launchpad. Is Florida lost? Not entirely, but parts of it, particularly Everglades National Park, one of the most unique ecosystems on the planet, have sustained damage that the current generation of scientists does not believe they will see fully reversed in their lifetimes. There are partial successes. The Argentine tegu appears to be in a phase where management is still possible, if resources are sustained. Lionfish elimination programs have demonstrated that localized interventions can reduce densities by up to 75%. The giant African land snail has been eradicated twice before reinfestation. There are reasons for optimism in the shift in public attitude. Thousands of volunteers participate annually in the Python Challenge. Restaurants and supermarkets that put lionfish on the menu are making a concrete contribution to population reduction. Rapid quarantines and molluscicide treatments have limited the spread of African snail colonies. But the broader reality remains hard. The Burmese python will be managed, not eliminated. The lionfish will be consumed, not eradicated. The iguanas and the tegus will be hunted continuously without ever being fully removed. What has happened in Florida is a lesson the rest of the world should study carefully, not from a position of superiority, but from one of caution. The globalization of the exotic animal trade, international tourism, maritime shipping, climate change, all create vehicles for species from one corner of the world to appear in another. And sometimes when conditions are perfect, they do not merely survive, they win. Florida is the most elaborate case study of this phenomenon, the most spectacular collection of simultaneous biological invasions in the history of modern America, gathered in a single state, a few hours from Disney World. And the swamps of the Everglades, in the silence of tropical nights, are emptier now than they were 30 years ago. No raccoons, no rabbits, no foxes, only 20-foot snakes unseen, swimming through dark water, and they keep going.